Hi, this is Amanda from Berroco, and I'll be showing what you do if you purchase a hank of yarn. And I have two different types of hanks here to show you. This one is a folded hank. You can see it's just laying flat like this, and then this one is twisted. And we sell yarns in both of these put-ups, and I'm going to show you what you do with these in order to get ready to knit. So I'll do the twist hank first. And if you didn't get a chance to have it wound at your yarn shop, or you don't own a ball winder in Swift, you're going to do it yourself. So what you do is first untwist the hank, and it's going to be a big loop like this. And the most important thing to avoid tangling this is to never lose the loop. If you start having your strands transfer from one side to the other, you're going to get a big mess. So try and especially hard not to lose your loop. And what you need to do is remove these ties that are holding the loop in place. So I'm going to take the label off first, and you might want to save that so that you can refer back to it for all the information on it. But then you can see that usually a hank is tied in at least 3 places with sometimes a different yarn, sometimes the exact same yarn. Here's the 3rd spot. And one of these 3 is actually the 2 ends of all of this yarn tied together. So what you want to do is cut those loops off. And this one you can tell is not attached to this skein because it came right off. And this one is attached. When I pulled it, you can see it pulled on this strand here that's looping all around. So those are my ends. So I'm going to try and keep track of those. And then I'll cut my last one. And I'm keeping my knee in the circle so that I don't lose it right now while I'm fussing around with it. So now my skein is ready to get wound, and I've got my 2 ends. So I'm going to go ahead and just pick one. And I put my skein around my knees and hold it kind of taut like this. I've seen people do it around their feet, or you can have someone else hold it around their hands. And then I just kind of start off winding around my fingers a little bit. And it'll be kind of tricky sometimes to get your strand of yarn to come just because it's wrapped around a lot of its friends. So just give it a little tug and always keep the circle. Don't lose the circle. And now I can start winding it into a ball like this. And it takes a little bit of time. A big skein like this might take you like 20 minutes if you're a slow winder, but that's okay if you like a meditative activity like that. So that's how you wind up a hank like this. And let's say for a minute that like my phone rang or something and I needed to put this down. The most important thing still is to keep the circle. So if you need to set it down, put it somewhere that it's not going to get knocked off a table or something, and keep that circle in place at all times, and then you can come back and finish your winding. So now I'm going to show you another way to wind up a hank of yarn, and this pertains to if you have access to 2 tools. The umbrella Swift, which is a Swift that pops open like an umbrella that you can put your yarn on, and a ball winder like this one with the little twisty thing. So they have these at your yarn shop probably, or maybe you have a friend who has them and you'd like to wind a skein on it. So I'll show you how you do that. You can take off your label, and this is the folded hank I was showing you earlier, but you can see once I unfold it, it still looks just like the twist hank did after I undid that. And this one has only 2 ties. This one up here and then this one down here, and it was tied using a different yarn than the actual yarn, so it's really easy to see that this is the one that's not attached and that this one is the one that's attached because the green yarn is on there. So you can it helps to sort of fluff out this skein a little bit before you put it on the Swift. And then you want to lay it around it and then puff it up. And ours is kind of broken, so we have this weird clamp on here, but most people would have a little twisty screw on theirs. And after it's kind of taut, like you don't want it super stretched out because that'll make everything a little too, make the tension too strong. But once you have it kind of set out, then you go ahead and cut that knot off of the end there and remove the tie. And now we'll find the ends. There's one right now, and I'm going to just let that hang. And then I'm going to come over here and cut that second tie that I saw earlier. And now when you are choosing which strand to use, pick the one that's kind of feeding off the outside of the yarn rather than this other one inside here, which is feeding from the inside, just so that it'll feed easier through the ball winder. And then the ball winder has a little eye that you put your yarn through, and then little notches that you can anchor it with. And then you can start turning this, and you can see it's wrapping the yarn around that center cylinder and pulling it off of the swift, which rotates by itself. And so I just keep twisting it until all of the yarn is wrapped onto this little ball, and then it's ready to knit. Also, as just a side note, depending on the sturdiness of your ball winder, some of them, this eye thing is really loose and crazy, so I'm used to holding it down with my thumb, but this one seems a little stronger than the one I have at home. So just do what seems appropriate for that ball winder. Okay, so I just finished winding up the entire ball, and this is something that I like to do, but you don't have to, but you can. And I like to fold up my label and stick it on the inside of my ball so that I have it with me once I run out of yarn and I can remember what I had. And also, it's helpful because depending on how much yarn and how tight your tension was when you were winding this up, it will fill in the center hole. And if you had a really loose ball wound up, it might start to collapse and fall out the center. But if you have a little anchor in there pushing back out on it, it's more likely to stay in the round shape for the entire duration of your knitting.